Okay, so this seems simple enough, right? Eat real food. Everybody on the same page? Okay, so again, we won't go slide for slide. You can just take notes on that one because some of it will match up. But eat real food is kind of a novel concept, right? Seems simple. What do we mean by that? What do you think we mean by eat real food?
Not processed.
Not processed, whole food. It's a pretty simple thing, but you would be surprised how many people don't even think about it like that. And again, most dietitians, most nutrition people kind of go with an 80-20 rule. 80% whole food, not processed, 20% can be processed. Again, I don't even think there's any study out there that says we get better benefit from having 100% healthy diet. But if we kind of go for that 80-20 type of breakdown, we're going to be a lot better with our healthy food choices. So again, eat real food. So when we talked about, you're exactly right, processed. So when we talk about whole food, obviously the ear of corn would be the less processed, would be the whole food. The can of corn, it's going to be a little bit more processing in there, probably some additives in there to keep it in there. The popcorn, again, and then all the way up to the corn chips. So this would be the most heavily processed. It's probably going to be a lot lower in fiber that you would get from just an ear of corn. It's going to have reduced number of vitamins are going to be stripped out of it. And it's often high in saturated fat, sugar, and salt. Because again, how do they keep it in the bag on the shelf longer? They add preservatives to it. So again, always better to choose the whole food option. It all starts with our plate. I think everybody in your notebook, you've got a plate. So when you think about your plate, I want you to visualize, like tonight when you go to dinner, half of your plate, and again, plates are big, right? So we're talking about a 9-inch plate, not a big old 12-inch. We're talking about a 9-inch plate. But half of your plate should be non-starchy vegetables. So what are we talking about there? Spinach, broccoli, cauliflower, all your greens, your green beans, vegetables that aren't starchy. So again, remember our 3 starchy guys are potatoes, peas, and corn. Now I heard you're having mashed potatoes and corn tonight, so again, we've got a compartment for those. But this half of our plate basically needs to be a salad or something that you would put in a salad, so the non-starchy vegetables. Then when you've got your plate in front of you, look at the other half of the plate. And I want you to cut that half in half and say, okay, a quarter of my plate, I want to put my protein in. So that's going to be my protein bucket. All right, so that's where we put our chicken breast or whatever meat option we have, or fish, or eggs, or tofu. But this is going to be our main protein bucket. Then we've got our carb bucket. This is where we're going to put our mashed potatoes. This is where we're going to put our corn. This is where we're going to put our fruit. So the carbs or the fruits and vegetables that are a little more carb dense. So peas, corn, potatoes, fruit. This is our carb bucket. So I always like to, when we talk about this example, when you think about it, well, not everything is easily put on a plate, right? So let's say you're out and we decide to drive through McDonald's. Okay, so we're gonna drive through McDonald's. Maybe we can get a side salad to go with it to meet some of our non-starchy vegetables. But then we've got a cheeseburger and we've got some French fries, okay? So how are we gonna plate that? Well, what are we gonna put in our protein bucket?
The burger.
The burger. The burger and cheese, right? Because there's some protein in the cheese. Now there's also some fat, but most meats have fat. So we're gonna put our burger and our cheese in our protein bucket. All right, now we've got French fries and a bun. What are we gonna do with that? We're not gonna be able to cram all of that in our carb bucket. Well, for women, we say typically we shoot for 30 to 45 grams of carbs, and if we're gonna stick them in this bucket, any bun, a hamburger bun, English muffin, 2 pieces of bread. We can pretty much count all of those as 30 grams of carbs. All right, so our hamburger comes with a bun. But if we take off that top bun and just have the bottom to hold our burger, now we've cut a 30-gram bun into 15. So we're gonna put our bottom bun in this portion. All right, now, if we're going on a 30 to 45, for men can have 45 to 60 grams, so you guys get a little bit more. But again, do we really need a full bun even if we've got those carbs to spend? A bun doesn't bring any nutrition to the table. So again, even the guys, just a good idea to just get rid of that top part of the bun. Now we've got our French fries. Can everybody visualize what the little white envelope of French fries looks like? Not the big red box, but the little white envelope. The little white envelope is 30 grams of carbs. So we've spent 15 on the bottom part of the bun. Now for women, we've got 30 to 45 to spend, men 45 to 60. So we can have a few French fries without feeling too guilty about it, right? So again, if we don't necessarily have to, if we had the full white envelope, there's 30 and 15 for our bun, so now we're up to 45. But again, if we substituted a side salad and had our salad instead of our fries, or maybe had a salad and some fries, again, the whole point is when you're trying to figure it out, think about, okay, I've got a quarter of my plate to put my carbs in. So when you face with a burger and fries, get rid of part of that bun, have a few fries, you're not feeling deprived, you still got some good protein there, so you can make the plate method work. So again, the plate method's always just a good visual when you sit down to eat and think, okay, I'm gonna load half of my plate up with those low carb vegetables. Again, all your greens, your cauliflowers, your broccolis, your green beans, all of those are great choices. When we're talking about the starches, again, this is where the mashed potatoes, the corn, the peas, and the fruit go over in this bucket. So again, just a good visual that whenever you're filling your plate to kind of shoot for. So just some tips, choose food that include fiber. We're not talking too much about fiber today, but we will. We'll get into fats, proteins, and fibers. So choose foods that have a good amount of fiber, Brussels sprouts, pears, all those good, green beans, so good fiber, minerals, which are found in fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. Make small changes to adjust the amount of processed food in your diet. It doesn't, again, we can do the 80-20, but let's just, when you think about, okay, the things that I eat on a daily basis, let's just weed out some of that processed stuff that you don't need. Instead of having a handful of chips as a snack, and again, I'm a chip lover and we're gonna work chips in now and then, but maybe have, like today before I came over, I had a handful of blueberries. Blueberries, some of them are delicious, a little fruit. Instead of having a candy bar, maybe put in a handful of nuts. So again, just substitutions, thinking whole food versus processed, and then work toward incorporating the most nutrients. So we call it bang for your buck. So we want the most nutrients for our carbs. So again, bread, it's carbs. It doesn't bring any nutrition to the table. So again, we're looking at those good bangs for your buck, the ones that are gonna cost us a few more carbs, but it does have a lot of nutrition in it. So, has anybody ever heard of the Mediterranean diet?
Yeah.
When I like to say diet, it's more of a lifestyle. And there's a reason why this has won a lot of awards year after year after year, because it is more of a lifestyle. So again, when we talk about the Mediterranean lifestyle diet, we're talking about fruits, grains, vegetables, olive oils, every meal. Try to incorporate that into every meal.
Is that in here?
I don't think the Mediterranean diet is in there.
No.
Then 3 days a week, try to get fish, seafood, nuts, legumes, so beans and peas. And then 1 serving a day of poultry, eggs, low-fat dairy, and then red meat once a week. If you like red meat, you can have it, but let's just not have it every day. So again, not a hard, fast rule, but kind of a guideline of when choosing, it's always good to work in fruits and vegetables and olive oil, good healthy fat into your diet. So again, not, the end all to be all, but there's a reason why that it's promoted, the Mediterranean diet is promoted so much. Okay, macronutrients, what are they and what do they do for us? So we need macronutrients, as the name says, it's the nutrients that we need in larger quantities. So macro, larger quantities to keep our body healthy and give us energy to work, play, and live. So what are they? So carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Carbohydrates are the most important source of energy for our bodies. No doubt about it, hands down. The food group that most rapidly increases our blood glucose level. So there's that. It's gonna raise our blood glucose, but we gotta have it. And that includes grains, starchy vegetables, fruits, beans, and milk products. Proteins. We gotta have proteins. Proteins are an essential component for muscle, skin, and bones. We gotta have protein, gotta keep us strong. We don't wanna fall. We wanna be out and active and moving around. We don't wanna lose our muscle mass, so we've gotta have protein. Contains no carbohydrates. So when we say 3 foods that don't have carbs, meat, eggs, and cheese, they're proteins. Contains no carbohydrates, do not increase your blood sugar levels, includes poultry, fish, meat, nuts, peanut butter, and cheese. And then fats. Can't eliminate all fat, we've gotta have fat. Fats are main storage form of energy in the body, do not increase your blood glucose levels, include butter, avocado, and oil. When digested, they become triglycerides. So again, we can't cut all fats out of our diet, but we want to focus more on healthy fats instead of unhealthy fats. And again, we'll have a section on fats, but just as kind of a guideline, we do need fat in our diet. We should get half the energy we need in a day from carbohydrates, so carbs. Some body parts, like our brain, choose carbs over any other type of fuel. So these diets that say 0 carbs, not sustainable, not good for you, not healthy. Our body, our brain wants carbs. Some of our cells and tissues can only use carbs for energy. So again, another reason why we can't cut carbs completely out of our diet. And carbs are so important to our body, we can store them for later use when we need them and are not taking in any carbs. So again, for a while, that's why some of these diets, you drop a lot of weight because our body has to have carbs. So we store them, and then whenever your body needs carbs, it goes to the fat to locate them. But again, we still need to take in healthy carbs. So let's focus on carbs. When possible, focus on high quality whole foods. You guys are gonna get tired of me saying that, but again, whole foods are always best. Whole fruit with the peel. No orange juice. Obviously, we're not gonna eat an orange peel, but a whole orange is great. No apple juice. We don't want just the apple juice, but a whole apple is amazing. Vegetables, whole wheat and grains, unsweetened dairy products, beans and legumes. Again, you see the theme here, whole, high quality carbohydrates. Not empty carbs, but high quality carbs. So again, diet trends. Diet trends, the no carb diet. That's the reason why we can't sustain something like that. So don't fall for, we're just gonna cut all carbs out of your diet. While it's never a bad idea to reduce or eliminate processed high sugar carbs, be careful what you cut out. So obviously we don't want to have a steady diet of donuts. A random donut now and then is not going to hurt you. But again, just be careful what you cut out. These type of carbs, yeah, good idea to cut out or to have every now and then. But again, not a daily diet of them. So when we talk about carbohydrates, that's where it gets a little bit complicated to think about. So we have simple carbs and we have complex carbs. Simple carbs are the sugar bowl that everybody thinks about. So you think about, okay, sugar, cookies, cakes, fruits, those simple things, the things that are easy for the body to break down. Then you have our starches, one of our big 3, potatoes, corn, and peas. Those are our starchy vegetables. And then our grains, and then our fibers. So that's another kind of catch-22, right? Because a lot of good whole food has good fiber, but it also raises that total carb number that we're looking at. So again, it's a balance. So we want to get good fiber, but then again, we don't want to go over on our carbs. And that's why we take a deep dive look at the food that we eat, because again, we're trying to get about 25 grams of fiber a day. So that means that that's going to increase some carbs. So again, we'll talk about how that breakdown works too. So buzzwords. Have you seen across packages or anything, only 3 net carbs, or only 1 carb, or no net carbs? So we don't deal in net carbs. To get to net carbs, what they're doing is they're taking the total carbohydrate minus fiber minus sugar alcohols, and that's considered the net carb. But again, we don't deal in net carbs because the ADA and the American Diabetes Association and the FDA don't rely on that as a good indicator of your food choices. So again, when it says net carbs, just bypass that. And I'm gonna show you on the label what I want you to look for. Glycemic index. We talked about glycemic index the other day. So glycemic index is a way to measure how quickly food will raise your blood sugar level. So we're going to look at a chart in a minute. It's going to give us the glycemic index of how it raises your blood sugar. So it's a scale from 0 to 100, which ranks food based on how quickly they are digested and absorbed. So the slower it's digested, the lower its glycemic index will be. High glycemic index foods are those foods that are digested very quickly. So those simple sugars that cause a rapid rise and a spike in your blood sugar. And then low glycemic index, again, are foods that are digested and absorbed more slowly. Avoiding spikes of high glycemic index foods. Your body constantly works to keep blood sugar levels stable. Remember I said your body likes to live here in this just normal, stable blood sugar? It doesn't like the rapid up and down. It likes the kind of normal. Spikes and crashes disrupt the balance, affecting your energy, your mood, and overall well-being. Who's had like that kind of feeling of just all of a sudden you feel like you're having low blood sugar, or your energy is real low. Again, that's that kind of crash that comes after having real high blood sugar and then it comes down. So again, that our body doesn't like that, and it doesn't feel good, to be quite honest, does it? It kind of makes us a little cranky. High glycemic foods can lead to overeating because they fail to provide a sense of fullness. They're in your system. What's the common theory about Chinese food? Doesn't make you feel full very long, right? Because it's got a lot of rice in it. So again, spikes up your blood sugar, drops it, you feel hungry again. It's not this full feeling. It's the spike up and then down and you're hungry again. So again, this is just a visual of foods that have a high glycemic index. They'll spike up your blood sugar and then drops it. And then the low glycemic index, again, it just makes that curve a little bit softer, a little bit easier for our body to tolerate. So pulling it all together, the benefits of eating low glycemic foods helps normalize that blood sugar, lowers the risk of insulin resistance or increased insulin resistance, because again, when you eat foods that are high glycemic index, what's our body do? When that blood sugar is high, your pancreas is going to spit out a lot of insulin. It's like, well, I've got to deal with this blood sugar because I don't want it high. I want to help bring that blood sugar down. So your body will feed yourself a lot of insulin at that time. So you'll have a lot of extra insulin floating around. And again, that leads to more insulin resistance. Keeps energy levels and appetite stable, and then reduces the risk of diseases through lowering intake of processed food. Because again, processed foods have a higher glycemic index because they're already processed, right? They're already broken down, so it's real easy for your body to break that down. Again, we're talking about the ones that have a low glycemic index. It's harder for your body to break down because it's more whole food. So here's you can find these online, you can find them everywhere, but it's just an index of foods in their glycemic index. Low glycemic index is considered anything less than 55, medium is 56 to 69, and then high is greater than 70. So again, if you look at, let's look at some of our fruits. Like asparagus is 15, so that's low. Broccoli, all of these guys are low. Why? Because they contain a lot of fiber. Here's a grapefruit is 25, and orange is 44, so they're still considered low, but they're coming up. Pineapple, 66, a lot of sugar in it. Watermelon, a lot of sugar in it, 72. Cherries, 22. So again,
Dates are 100.
well, think about, what do you use sometimes to substitute sugar in a lot of recipes? It's ground dates. So again, they're just very, dates are just, you're left with kind of the sugary dates, so. Again, you can find these, some of them, there's a lot of different ones out there.
Where would you put dried prunes on that list, unsweetened? Like
Yeah, but remember, when it's dried, it's condensed.
Right.
So kind of like the dates, it's gonna be a higher glycemic index.
Okay.
So
yeah.
dried fruits are all higher.
Yeah, because the moisture's been taken out of them, so it's more condensed. So use GI as a helpful tool, but not an indicator of nutrition. So again, it's just one of those things. It's good to kind of have in your back of your mind, but it doesn't always mean good nutrition. All right, so a food label. So right now we're gonna focus on just a couple specific things on the food line, on the food label. We're gonna look at serving size. Serving size is that tricky one, because a lot of times they'll put on the front of a package only 7 carbs, but there's 3 servings in the package. And like Tammy and I talk to a lot of patients, and they'll be like, well, I only have a bowl of cereal for breakfast. Bowls are big, and if they pour you their bowl of cereal, a lot of times it's like 3 servings. So we need to know serving size. How much is an actual serving of this product? We don't really talk too much about calories, because if you really get your carbs in line, calories aren't, we're talking about whole good nutrition. Calories usually fall in line, so we really don't focus on this too much. We'll get to fat at some point, but as a general rule, if the fat is 10% or less, it's a good product. But right now, we're looking at serving size and the total carbohydrate line. So we're looking at this gram of carbohydrates, not the percentages. We don't care about any of this down below right now, but we're just looking at the total carbohydrate in the grams. So for 2/3 of a cup of whatever this is, you're gonna have to spend 37 grams of carbs. For a woman, that's a meal. It better be really good. It better be really good.
So cereals are probably notorious for it.
Notorious. Because remember, what do you have with cereal? You usually have milk.
Sugar.
Yes, a lot of people put sugar on their cereal too, so that's a thing too. But with cereal, we have milk. So a cup of milk is 12 grams of carbs. So you have to take that into consideration. So for cornflakes, a cup and a half of cornflakes, that's a decent amount of cornflakes, but again, it's not gonna fill me up. But a cup and a half of cornflakes is gonna cost us 35 grams of carbs. Then we add a cup of milk to that, now we're up to 47 grams of carbs. This is 45, so I'm not for sure about the milk calculation, but again, this is usually dry cereal, and this is with milk. So again, 45 grams of carbs for your morning cereal, which is a cup and a half. The other thing that we'll talk about, we're not gonna focus on today, but protein. It's got 3 grams of protein. What's protein do for us? Protein makes us feel full longer. So again, it's only 3 grams of protein. Not a real good protein kick there for your morning. An egg would be better. An egg is gonna have 10, 12 grams of carbs, or of protein, and no carbs. So again, you might add, maybe cut the serving of if you just want a little cereal, maybe cut the cereal in half and have an egg to up your protein.
Within no bread, no
Okay.
toast.
No toast. Your average, and I've got a bread example in here, but your average slice of bread is gonna be 15 grams. So, but if you had scrambled eggs and then had a piece of toast, that works, right? So, because the egg is gonna have no carb and the piece of toast is gonna have about 15, so again, you could make that work easily, because you've got some protein, you've got, a little carb, you've even got a few extra to spend too, depending on how hungry you are. Yeah, 2 eggs. Potato chips. We're gonna have them now and then. I'm not gonna tell you you can't have potato chips, but potato chips are one of those things. I want you to, if you're gonna have potato chips, I want you to count them out. Or else have a little bag, one of those little school bags, and it tells you exactly how many carbs. 11 chips, 15 grams of carbs. Not bad, if you're hankering for a chip. Doesn't have any, they say it's got 2 grams of protein, I'm assuming that's coming in whatever they cooked it with.
Yeah.
And then the fat, though, it kind of breaks our 10% rule. But again, this isn't every now and then. This isn't every now and then. We're not gonna have chips every day, but if you want them, you can allow it for 'em. When we say 30 to 45 grams of carbs per meal, you can have a morning snack if you choose to, and you can have an afternoon snack. And the snacks I'd like to keep around 15 grams, okay? So, in the afternoon, not every day, but in the afternoon, if you're hankering for a chip, 11 chips would make a decent afternoon snack. Yogurt, Greek yogurt. What's the good thing about Greek yogurt?
Harder to
Protein.
break it down, I mean,
It's got protein in it, more
Protein.
protein than regular yogurt. Greek, if you can, some people don't like the texture of Greek yogurt, but it's got 11 grams of protein in that little container.
how much?
11 grams, just in that little container. Let's see, 18 grams of carbs would make a great afternoon snack, if you needed something like that. Total fats, 2.5, so 4%, so that's not bad. So really Greek protein is a great, be careful though with the different ones. Some of them have just plain jelly on the bottom, a lot of sugar. So really look at the label. The best thing to do is get like a large thing of low fat, no fat, plain Greek yogurt. Put a couple of tablespoons in a bowl, put some mixed, fresh fruit with it, makes it excellent snack. And you don't have to worry about, all the other added stuff in it. But again, a lot of good protein in Greek yogurt. And Tammy read an article, tell them about what you know about yogurt, Tammy.
Oh, well, I think last year they had an article, it didn't really matter what kind it was, of course, Greek, like Susan says, has more protein in it, but all of them. 2 servings a week, I think, was preventative for type 2 diabetes, so
Yeah,
if you like
it's-
yogurt.
There's a lot of good benefit to having some yogurt, so, again, good bang for your buck. Here's light, great value, so again, look at the serving size as the container, okay? And then the carbohydrates is 7 grams for the container, so it's probably truly a light. 13 grams of protein, again, pretty good deal for the amount of carbs. Oatmeal, who likes to eat oatmeal? There you go. So oatmeal, Tammy and I are big proponents of oatmeal. When we both worked in the hospital setting, we used to eat a lot of oatmeal, had great cholesterol numbers. When I got out of that hospital routine, I stopped eating my oatmeal every morning, went to get my lab work, my cholesterol had gone up. Put the oatmeal back in my diet, my cholesterol numbers went down. Now, a lot of doctors will say the only thing oats are good for is to fatten horses. But again, it's got a lot of good fiber, a lot of good pipe cleaning, and it's, most everybody's gonna eat it warm, and it's cozy, and it's great on a winter morning. I eat mine dry and raw, but a lot of people, it just is good comfort food. Total carbohydrates, now these are the mixed packets, so what are they gonna have in them?
Sugar.
Yeah, So again, probably the Quaker Oats, just the regular, and then put some fresh fruit on top of it's a better option. Because again, that little packet, remember those packets aren't very big, they're tiny. That's gonna cost you 33 grams of carbohydrates with 4 grams of protein. Rice, dun, dun, dun. Rice is that one that you really have to think about the serving size on. Pasta and rice, half a cup, probably more like a third of a cup. But a half a cup of rice, before you have anything else, is gonna pop 23 grams of carbohydrates into your meal. Yeah, that's a lot for just a
Look at all
half.
those zeros.
Hmm?
And look at all those zeros.
Yeah.
What nutritional value?
No, 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 no.
And they serve that a lot here.
It's good filler, but again, it just costs you a lot of carbohydrates, again with pasta too. Pasta's gonna have the same number of zeros, and it's just very carb dense, so keep that in mind. The cauliflower rice is good.
What
Cauliflower
about
rice.
the brown rice?
So brown rice is gonna up the nutrition level a little bit because it's more of a whole, but I should have had that example, but you're not gonna see too much difference in the numbers. Zero sugar candy. It's gotta be good, right? Tammy and I would see patients in the hospital and like, I eat zero sugar candy. It's not contributing to my cholesterol, or to my carbs. 4 pieces. So 4 of those little pieces is gonna cost you 20 grams of carbs. Zero sugar, 20 grams of carbs. Look what it has in it. And we'll talk about sugar alcohols later. Lot of sugar alcohol, 16 grams because of the sugar alcohol, because of the way they sweeten it. So just be careful whenever they throw the big zero across, and especially candies, because they want to draw you in, flip it over and look at that label. Because again, it's not going to be 0 carbs. It's just something to be aware of.
So if you're on a low salt diet, some of these things you can't have, even though the carbohydrates are great.
Yeah, that's a balancing act, right? Because again, we'd like for you to shoot for under a teaspoon of salt a day. And there's even, I had a patient show me once that there's even bottled water that has sodium in it. So again, you have to really take a look at the labels, because there's sodium, as you know, in everything, especially packaged items are gonna have sodium.
How much is a teaspoonful of sodium? 5 milligrams?
No, I think it's like you can have what, I wanna say 1,800, but I don't think that's high
I
enough.
thought it was 2,300, is that?
23 was also coming to mind.
Yeah,
I
I
used to
think
know
it's
this I used to work in the
2300.
heart hospital, so I knew this off the top of my head. But again, it's, Tammy's looking it up for us. But again, it's one of those, it adds up so quickly, especially with things that have a nutrition label. Because things that have a nutrition label are packaged, and they use a lot of salt to make that happen.
Yeah, to make it more palatable.
Exactly.
Because you don't have the sugar.
And again, eating out in restaurants, how do they make it good?
They add a lot
Butter
of
and
salt.
salt, a lot of fat and a lot of salt. So again, those are one of those things that, yeah, you can't win, right? You can't win, it's just one of those things where you have to be very careful. But again, if you eat whole foods, you can have some packaged now and then. As a general rule, don't use the salt shaker at the table, just make that a non-issue. Don't salt everything, but use, if you want more flavor, yeah, pepper, mustards, paprikas, a lot of different seasonings that you can use instead of salt. Tammy, did you find a number?
It's 23 for a teaspoon.
Very good, gold star. Then breads. So breads are one of those that they really like to catch your eye with the keto and the net carbs. And I had a lady, I went to her house and she brought out this new bread. Now she paid a lot for it. I think this is, I'm gonna say these are like $7 for the loaf of bread. But again, that's where they try to grab you, only 1 gram of net carb. But let's take a look at it. So this is a slice. The slice has got 10 grams of carbs. 10 grams of carbs for the slice. Now, it does have a little protein in it, so it's got 6 grams of protein. But again, is it worth the $7 when, if you look at, that's just white bread. If you look at Old Fashioned Wonder, now again, checking our nutrition label, this is for 2 slices, so we cut all this in half. So then that's like 14.5. So again, for the extra price, this is gonna be $3 a loaf. For the extra price, is it really worth it? Just be careful about that, because a lot of times they charge a lot of money for these specialty breads, and when you really look at the nutrition label, it's not worth it. Because again, a good old-fashioned slice of Wonder has got 2.5 grams if we cut that 5 in half.
Isn't
So
it
again,
that Sprottle, or what is it? That's a spirulina? No, it's a
there's one that's sprouted bread, yeah. And
Yeah.
there's one that a lot of people talk about, Ezekiel's, I
Yes,
think.
yes.
Ezekiel's is supposed to be really good. Again, not saying they're bad, but are they worth the extra cost when you really
Yeah.
look at, what you're getting? Kind of depends, but
When we have bread, I want bread that I like.
yeah, exactly. I used to buy a lot of really seedy whole grain, and my kids would say, well, we have to spit out all the seeds to get to the bread. So again, it just depends on what you like. All right, so I'm gonna show you a couple of the Habit New videos. I always struggle of whether to show these in the beginning or the end, but we'll talk about these if you have any questions after these are over, but let me just share these with you real quick. Our sessions don't stay long enough to keep us signed in, so we always have to re-sign in.
Welcome to the Habit New Lifestyle Modification Program. Carb counting, part 1. Carbohydrate counting, or carb counting, is a record-keeping or journaling technique to keep track of the amount of carbohydrates you consume every day. Carb counting helps you keep your blood glucose levels stable. In this session, you will learn how to count carbs in your diet. Every food you eat has 3 main nutritional components: carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Carbohydrates are present and abundant in many popular foods, including breads, pastas, fruits, dairy products, beans, and sweets. Remember, diabetes is the result of having excess glucose in your blood. Your body metabolizes carbohydrates into glucose shortly after they are consumed. Most people with diabetes understand that they should stay away from sweets to limit the amount of glucose in their system. But avoiding sweets is not enough. People with diabetes and prediabetes need to be careful about their consumption of carbohydrate-rich foods as well, because after metabolism, carbohydrates immediately result in more glucose in the body. The amount of carbohydrates that can be consumed per day varies from person to person. It depends on that person's height, weight, and activity levels. For many people, a reasonable daily carb allowance is 130 to 150 grams per day, which works out to somewhere between 40 and 50 grams per meal. Let's work through an example. It's time for breakfast.
Okay, let me go back to that. So when he said, an important thing I forgot to mention, when he said X number per day, right? We do a use them or lose them type of thing. So when we say 30 to 45 per meal, you get 30 to 45 grams for breakfast, you get 30 to 45 grams for lunch, and you get 30 to 45 grams for dinner. You can have a 15-gram snack in the morning, and you can have a 15-gram snack in the afternoon. The reason why I say it like that, if you skip breakfast, you don't get to push those forward. It's a use them or lose them. So that doesn't mean you can double up on lunch just because you skipped breakfast. So again, it's good to have 3 meals a day. Don't force yourself to eat, I'm not saying that. but it's good to break them up. So when he said a total of this amount, we don't really like to think about it like that. It's more of, I get this many for breakfast, I get this many for lunch, and I get this many for dinner. Now, he uses a global number, whereas again, we say 30 to 45 for women and 45 to 60 for men, okay?
Standard breakfast is 2 scrambled eggs, a piece of whole wheat toast, and a cup of coffee with milk and sugar. What is the carbohydrate content of each of these items? By consulting food labels or using software tools like Have It New, you learn the carbohydrate content of each egg is less than 1 gram, which is low. A piece of toast is 23 grams, which is high. Butter has almost no carbohydrates, and coffee with milk and sugar contains 7 grams. Altogether, this breakfast has approximately 32 grams of carbohydrates. So this meal is within your target carbohydrate content per meal. You can find the carb content of packaged foods on their labels under nutrition facts. If you are using the Have a New food diary, you'll have access to a database of nutrition information. However you do carb counting on paper, with Have It New, or with any other tool, be consistent, be accurate, and be honest. That way, you'll have good information to support your decision making. Not all foods contain the same kind of carbohydrates. In the next video, we will learn about different kinds of carbohydrates and their impact on blood glucose levels.
Okay, so now let's watch the second one, and then we're gonna talk about these a little bit.
Welcome to the Have It New Lifestyle Modification Program.
Carb counting, part 2. The last video discussed the importance of carb counting, but not all carbs are the same. This video discusses different types of carbohydrates. There are 3 types of carbohydrates in food: sugar, dietary fiber, and starches. Sugar is known as the simple carbohydrate and is also known as the fast-acting carbohydrate. Sugar is absorbed rapidly by the body, and therefore sugar intake results in a sudden increase in blood sugar levels. There are many different names for sugar. Some of the common ones don't include the word sugar itself. Examples of these are maple syrup, high fructose corn syrup, agave nectar, cane syrup, fruit juice concentrates, molasses, and honey. You may also see table sugar listed by its chemical name, sucrose. Fruit sugar is also known as fructose. Most sugar names end with the letters OSE. There are 2 types of sugar. There are naturally occurring sugars, such as those in milk or fruit, and there are refined sugars, such as corn syrup or granulated sugar. You find refined sugars in cakes and cookies, for example. Next, dietary fiber, or simply fiber, is the second type of carbohydrate. Dietary fiber is indigestible and abundant in plants. When you consume dietary fiber, most of it passes through the intestines and is not digested. Fiber contributes to digestive health. It also helps you feel full after eating. There are 2 broad classes of dietary fiber: soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Both of these are good to eat for different reasons. Soluble fiber is abundant in beans, fruit, and grains like oats and barley. Soluble fiber can help lower your cholesterol and improve blood glucose control. Insoluble fiber helps keep your digestive system working well. This type of fiber is found in the highest concentrations in vegetables, wheat bran, corn bran, rice bran, and most other whole grains. It is better to get your fiber from food than from supplements. Fiber-rich foods, in addition to their high fiber content, contain many important vitamins and minerals. The third type of carbohydrate is starch. Starch is made of many glucose units linked together. Starch raises blood glucose levels after digestion. Foods high in starch include vegetables like potatoes, dried beans like lentils and kidney beans, and grains like oats, barley, and rice. Cooked grains and breads contain high amounts of starch. Now let's consider sugar, fiber, and starch in the context of making healthy choices. Consider eating whole grains rather than refined grains. Whole grain flour contains starch and fiber. Refined flour contains only the starchy part of the grain. Read nutrition labels carefully for whole grain foods. Breads, cereals, and crackers that say made with or containing whole grains may not confer the benefits of those made entirely with whole grains. Be careful with foods that contain a mix of whole grains and refined grains. Vegetables such as sweet potatoes, parsnips, and squash are high in starch, but also very rich in nutrients and fiber. So, those are good. For good health, adults should consume 25 to 30 grams of dietary fiber each day. For example, one raw large apple has 5 grams of fiber. Legumes are high in soluble fiber. 1 cup of cooked kidney beans contains 16 grams of fiber. Try to include dried beans in several meals a week. Beans are a great source of protein and are loaded with fiber and nutrients. When you choose to eat carbohydrates, choose wisely. For example, a small ice cream bar has the same carb content as a banana, but a banana also contains potassium, fiber, and vitamins. Even though for plain enjoyment, most of us would rather eat the ice cream bar, the banana is the healthier choice. A difficult choice, but a good one.
A difficult choice. All right, anybody have any questions about that? What about when he said that there are no carbs in butter?
Yeah, I wondered about that too.
There aren't any carbs in butter, but what do we have to worry about with butter?
The oils and the fats. Yeah.
Fat. It comes from an animal product, so it's gonna have a lot of saturated fats. And when we talk about fats, saturated fats, remember the ones we wanna keep low. Unsaturated fats are avocados, or nuts, or fish, or olive oils. Those are the ones that we wanna get more of our fat allowance out of. So again, we'll talk about that. Did anybody set a goal last time that they wanna share with the group? Did anybody have success in making it?
I did the 2 vegetables a day.
How'd it go?
Went pretty good.
Yay!
Tomatoes, avocados, lettuce,
Good.
carrots, and cucumbers. Those little
Excellent.
cucumbers, you know.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good job. I know somebody was gonna cut out some snacking, some evening snacking. Did that happen? Anybody want to make that?
Yeah, I cut them out. I didn't eat anything after dinner.
There you go. There you go. How'd that go? Was
Fine.
it tough? Okay, good.
Tough, but
Yeah, because sometimes, like my husband and I, if we sit down to watch TV in the evening, I think it's one of those habit triggers, right? If we sit down to watch TV, what goes great with watching TV? Yeah, popcorn or chips or some kind of snack. So again, it's just one of those habits that you get into that you need, to kind of think, well, am I hungry? Am I truly hungry? No, I'm not hungry. I'm just doing this because we're sitting down to watch TV. So again, sometimes ask yourself too, am I hungry or am I thirsty? Because sometimes you're thirsty. Because remember, we want to try to remember to drink our water. So now we're going to get official with our goal setting. That was just on a piece of paper. But with everybody's notebook, you should have in your front cover, I don't think everybody got color, sorry. But in your notebook, you should have these goal sheets. So we're gonna make an action plan for next week. So this week, think of something that you wanna do. So set a goal to work on between now and our next session. The goal should help you lower your risk of diabetes, so something we talked about. Write 3, so we're just gonna do 1 action. So between now and the next session, my goal is to, and then you're gonna do, I'm not for sure where I will do it. I guess if you're gonna do activity, it would be the gym, otherwise. When will I do it? So if you're talking about adding vegetables, are we gonna go for every day between now and next Thursday. How long will I do it? So we're gonna do it basically a week, because this is gonna be a week goal. Challenges I might face, and ways to cope with these challenges. And again, sometimes we downplay the ways, how to cope with these challenges. But in the book, on module 4, there's a section on building on streaks. And I really like this, and this is a good thing to read later, but it's like if you like raw vegetables over cooked vegetables, then you're a salad person. So build great salads. If you like cooked vegetables, eat cooked vegetables. If you like to cook, look up some creative recipes. Get crazy with spices. Do some things like that. A lot of times, if it's a time of day, just like I said with the watching TV, if it's a triggering time, think about something else that you might, you know what I sometimes do if I'm like, I really want a snack? I'll have hot tea while I'm watching TV. You know, something to make me feel like that I'm having something, but it's not loaded with carbs. So again, try to think of, and you don't have to fill them out right now, but if you've got something on your mind right now, go ahead and fill it out. If you want to fill it out tonight when you're thinking about it, but try to set a goal. Doesn't have to be a huge monumental goal, but try to set a goal that we can talk about next time, and then be honest with yourself. How well did you do? What were the struggles? Maybe we can strategize as a group of, you know, things that you could do to help you meet your goal. Does anybody have any questions about anything we've talked about? We're right about at time, so I don't want to keep you too long, but anybody have any questions? Yeah.
How do you measure salad dressings? And how much do you put on?
So typically a salad dressing measurement is 2 tablespoons. And a lot of that is fat content. But if we say 2 tablespoons, and again, with salad dressing, dipping, like there's tactics where you dip your fork and then eat your salad. But again, I tend to throw things on my salad that kind of jazz it up so I don't need as much dressing, like a little avocado or an egg. An egg will add protein, an avocado will add healthy fat. A lot of times I put different spices,
Yeah,
or I might even sprinkle a little Parmesan cheese.
We don't have those choices here.
Yeah. And that's why, again, that's why we're gonna get with Beth to get the choices you have, and maybe Tammy and I can put our head together and kind of strategize some things like that to,
So we get a little cup of salad dressing. We don't know what's in it,
Okay, do you have different salad dressings?
like
in here?
Italian or ranch or.
Okay, yeah.
So which is the best one of the salad dressings?
Again, if they have a light or a low fat option would always be the best. But on the regular, remember, it's 2 tablespoons, so the carbs aren't gonna be too crazy on it. The fat is what we're looking at, so. I don't know, Tammy,
Yeah.
you got any ideas?
Do you think it's 2 tablespoons in your little cup? That's probably close
But
to
it's
that.
typically,
Yeah.
that's a serving
You
size.
don't have to pour all of it.
Right, you don't have to
Definitely,
pour
that's
all
what
of
Susan
it,
was
that's a
saying,
good.
dip your fork
Or
and
you
then
can
kind
dip
of.
your fork. A lot of times I like to, believe it or not, the different greens, what kind of greens do they have in their salads?
Mostly
Iceberg.
Iceberg, okay, that one's not, but like a lot of the different like greens, like arugula is really peppery, and spinach, do they ever have spinach?
Never.
Okay.
Keep well enough.
Oh, gotcha,
Romato's good.
Yeah.
yeah. But a lot of times it's just good to taste the different items in the salad. So the salad comes pre-made and you don't have, or is it a salad bar type of situation?
No, it's pre-made.
Pre-made, okay. Okay.
One little cherry tomato.
Okay, no cheese or anything on it?
Little sprinkle, sometimes there's a little
Little
sprinkle.
sprinkle.
Yeah,
Cheese.
like, and that'll add a little bit of protein to it. Yeah, but again, that's one thing that we wanna do is to, explore the menu here with Beth and kind of, maybe just take what you've got and we can work with that.
Right.
The other challenge is we have an amount of money each month that we're allowed to put toward our meals.
Yeah,
And a lot of us try to stay within that allowance.
right.
Sure.
So if we take, say, the evening meal and we want to change up something in it, it may add a charge to it.
Oh, okay.
So if we're trying to balance what we're eating and how much we're spending, that sort of thing, it really
Gets
gets
tricky.
complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, and you like to cook in the evening
I
too,
do.
don't you? Yeah, so, again, it's a balancing act.
Sure.
So I don't cook at all.
Okay. And then you ask about popcorn. So
Yeah, it's a great
typically,
snack.
yeah, it's good, it's got
Whole
fiber in
grain.
it, whole grain. Usually about 3 cups is a serving size. Air popped is obviously better.
About how many carbs?
Do you use the microwave or what do you use?
Microwave.
Microwave popcorn. Look at your nutrition label because they vary a lot. So I would try to get the lighter
So
versions.
they talk about their skinny,
Yeah, the skinny pop's
Skinny
great.
pop's great, yeah.
is it?
Yeah.
And they have small nuts.
Oh, that's perfect, and it's got a nutrition label on it. So I'm sure it's probably a snack amount of carbs, you know, under the 15
Like,
range.
yeah, so
Oh,
these
there you
have,
go. Tammy just happens to have one.
so when I don't get lunch, I eat some skinny pop. So 10 grams of carbs for this whole pack.
So that's a great
Yeah,
snack.
it'd be a good snack.
Yeah,
Got
it's a
some
great
fiber
snack.
in it, 2 grams of fiber.
Thanks, guys. See you next week. Don't forget, set a goal if you haven't done one now. Do it tonight.